Welcome to the Movie Vault. I'm Ben.
And I'm Zach.
And today we're reviewing a movie that came out pretty recently.
Yeah.
And we also have a guest on today.
Yes.
Hello.
David. And he was actually our first guest on. What movie were you on it for the first
It was
time?
unfortunately the B movie.
And he was a guest host, really, because you weren't there.
Did you pick the B movie?
I don't think I picked the B movie.
Who picked the B movie?
I honestly don't remember how it came up that
David,
we
I
watched
thought it
the
was
B
you.
movie.
I don't think I don't know.
At least it's a movie.
I don't know. We watched it together. I don't think I'd seen it until we did it. So.
We were probably flipping through Netflix and we were like, well, let's review the B movie. That's how we did. We did the Notebook, you know.
I was gone on
That's
two
right.
episodes. I remember one was with Jake Blennis.
Yep.
That was Fight Club. And then
Yep.
the B movie, right?
Yep.
And then there's only one episode that I actually regret doing. Do you know which one it is?
I actually don't know.
You don't? It's because it's not a movie.
Oh, yes, I do know. Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather.
Yes.
He regrets doing it.
And the fight was so stupid because they tied, so there wasn't much to say.
Did we watch that in my backyard or something?
We put a projector up.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that might be one of the more contentious moments in Movie Vault history. Should that have actually counted as an episode?
What were we thinking?
I don't know, because our episode 100 is based on that being an episode.
Was it that big?
Well, I think we kind of bought into the hype a little bit, which is what fighting is all
bit.
about.
To be fair, we've done many episodes with more than one film in it.
Yeah, we've bent the rules. We make our own rules. We're the masters of our own universe
Yeah,
here.
but we have to stick by our own rules, and that's a really postmodern statement, so be careful.
Yeah, but we haven't done that, so
I guess that's fair.
we're masters of our fate.
We only have the two segments, the movie and the Outside the Vault. And I like it. Let's just keep it.
Yep, we're never adding any more segments.
Yeah.
this is gonna be
Maybe.
clipped.
Something is either a movie or it is outside the vault. There's no other categorization for it.
Anyway, today we're going to review a movie that pretty recently came out about 4 years ago. It's called The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It came out in the year of 20. So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty short film.
Wait, I'm seeing over here. It says it's 1920.
Zach, you gotta pay attention to those first two digits.
Oh, I'm sorry. Usually people hand me their digits.
Left us speechless, Zach.
Sorry, guys.
But yes, that's a silent horror movie directed by Robert Weenie. I'm sure that's how you pronounce his name.
Vini.
Yeah, probably Weenie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And written by Hans Janowitz and Karl Mayer.
Janowitz?
Yeah, it's probably. Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. It's a quintessential work of German expressionist cinema, per Wikipedia. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's about a doctor who controls I don't know how to pronounce this word.
Somnambulist?
Somnambulist.
Pronunciation is brought to you by Zach.
Yeah, it's called pronunciation, by the way. But
Okay.
yes,
Which-
also
okay,
brought to you
okay.
by me.
Yeah.
A somnambulist is just a sleepwalker, but this sleepwalker has also been continuously asleep for 23 years.
Supposedly.
Supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
Now, let's just give our initial reactions. We're right out of the theater. It just came out, opening night. What do we think?
First half of the movie, I was like, seems like a pretty straightforward story. There's a murderer. Dr. Caligari's doing it. You know, they're going to catch him.
Did we know by then? Did we know by halfway through the film?
Yeah. Yeah, you could, by the third or fourth, it was at least the third or fourth act, you knew that the somnambulance was committing the murders.
Somnambulance.
The ambulance.
Like the idea of the
Yeah.
like the concept of somnambulism.
Yeah, exactly. Was committing the murders. And that Dr. Caligari was probably controlling him. But then, the second half of the movie, there was a big twist. And then you realized that you might have been wrong about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that caught me off guard.
Okay.
Oh,
Not-
it did for me too.
Because I was really not expecting a twist in this movie.
So, what were you expecting? It to be straightforward and just go straight to the end, where they just reveal it's him?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really, read anything about the plot of the movie, but...
Now, in the end of
first-
the film, it is straightforward. It is him, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's straightforward, but, the whole, 5 acts of the movie, 5.5 acts of the movie, you think that one thing's going on, and then there's a reveal at the end.
Of an unreliable narrator.
It's straightforward
yeah.
misdirection.
What?
It's like straightforward misdirection.
I guess you're right. And it kind of went reverse back, like Michael Scott says, snip, snap, snip, snap. It's kind of like back and forth of what your expectations are.
And a little bit of nonlinear storytelling sprinkled in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which was hard.
Flashbacks.
Yeah, hard to track. I wonder if those tints were in the original film. That was something I should have looked up before. But
It said something about like the original prints don't exist and that the tints come from the Latin American prints or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. We read that before.
But the tints seem very intentional.
Yeah, because the tints kind of told what time period it was in, or what.
Yeah, time of day.
Whether
Day
it
or
was the
night.
future or the present or the
Oh, yeah,
past
that
or the
too,
day or
yeah.
night. But yeah, it was nonlinear storytelling. And that was kind of hard to tell. And yeah, I have not seen many silent films in general, so this was kind of it was a little bit harder to follow for me. But I mean, once I got about maybe 30 minutes in, it was pretty easy to follow. What was your reaction, David?
Yeah, I have to agree with Ben. Like initially, I was just thinking like, oh man, like this is pretty straightforward. And I'm not a big silent movie kind of person either. But I will say though, I really do appreciate this film for what it is, and I'd like to, I don't know, sometimes make that distinction where it's like okay, just because it's old doesn't necessarily mean it's good. But this is good. I thought I liked the story a lot, and I thought it was done well. I think that maybe silent storytelling could be told in a more, acting kind of way. It doesn't need as much dialogue necessarily. So and you see that done where there's no dialogue whatsoever, and people can still make but can you do that for an hour? Probably not. But I thought they could have maybe utilized that a little bit more. But besides that, the dialogue was pretty solid. Again, like straightforward at the beginning, and added a little bit more interesting things. That one scene, this was the second murder with the like the silhouette shadowy murder. I thought that was pretty good artistic technique.
Yeah,
So.
well, that's a big part. We'll get into that. You brought up two things that were interesting. The first one was you said just because it's old doesn't mean it's good. A lot of times people think old is bad, right? That's the common thing. Like, oh, you're watching an old film. How good could it be, right? But then you learn eventually when you watch enough movies that old films are really good. And then after that, you learn that not all old films are really good. So that's like an extra level of maturity for a cinephile to have.
Right, and I think the reason being is normally when a cinephile will say old movies are good, they're talking about the movies that are universally acclaimed that are old.
And we did
So
Citizen
there's like
Kane, and we were
hundreds,
like, wow.
probably thousands. I mean, there's thousands of movies that are nobody might even be lost at this point that nobody knows about or just won't be watched very much that are old movies.
Right, there's probably a reason that nobody watches them anymore.
Exactly. So we just have the decades of people having opinions on these movies to like be able to know, oh, if I go watch this movie, I'll probably like it because it's probably good.
Yeah. And the other thing you kind of brought up was that, well, you were saying that they could have been told in maybe a more acting way. And that kind of made me think about, in the middle of the film, we were talking about how a lot of these reactions in the film, like the talking to each other and reacting to the murders and stuff, were pretty theatrical, right? They were almost like they were staged on a play and a little bit more cartoonish than a normal film would be.
Even the set design kind of reminisced like
Very
play design.
angular
Yeah.
or like triangular set design.
Well, if you're thinking of cartoonish, you could even think of Dr. Caligari's glove, which was Mickey Mouse's glove.
Yeah.
And his like glasses and his facial expressions and everything about Dr. Caligari, the way he moved, until we see the actual Dr. Caligari at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and you can tell it's so expressionist and surreal just because you have one of the main characters, the Caesar, is this tall, lanky, skinny guy who almost doesn't look like he can stand up straight. He's like a wiggly guy, you could draw him like a kid could draw him as a stick figure. And you have this big Dr. Caligari who's a little bit goofy and has these weird mannerisms. And then you have all of these other people. Like I remember when they were running after the girl when she was getting kidnapped by Caesar. And there's just this line of all these people kind of cartoonishly running one by one, right? Almost like a Charlie Chaplin film a little bit. But a lot of it was pretty cool. But you're right. I wonder if it's a part of the time. I wonder if the theatrics in this is just what it was at the time. I really don't know. I haven't seen enough films at that. That's something that we could maybe think about as we move forward as the movie vault. But
Yeah, I certainly haven't seen enough German expressionist movies to know
No.
how this fits in. I did read that Roger Ebert claimed that, and other people have claimed along with him, that this is the first like true horror movie. Which is interesting because of the twist at the end, which makes it seem like maybe by modern standards more of a thriller
Yeah.
or a mystery and less of a horror movie. But there are elements of horror, like we talked about with the stabbing scene and the silhouette and stuff in that vein, that I could see the argument that it was the first like horror movie. I know Nosferatu is another really early one, but I think it was a couple years after this movie.
Yeah.
I can't remember whether that movie's German too or not.
There was one before in 1913 or 14 it came out. It was called Phantomas. And Roger Ebert talks about that even in one of his reviews. Just talking about, but that was kind of based in the real world, even though it's about these ghosts.
Before I forget, another thing with you talking about like how the world looked cartoonish and angular and the people were, it's almost like that was a tip off to the twist if you think about it at the end. It was like, and I don't know if they really changed the set design much at the end of the movie, but like the whole world is like it looks fake, and you say, well, it's a set, but like nobody shapes the doors the way that these people did. Nobody, like, there's a lot of like details that you're like, that doesn't look like a regular town in the world, and you realize at the end that the narrator, the guy telling the story, who's in the story as an observer and eventually as a guy seeking to like find justice on Caligari for the murders.
Yeah.
And then he realizes, and then at the end of the movie it's revealed he's actually the insane one, and he's trying to get everyone to turn on Dr. Caligari, who's the director of this mental institution.
It was great when he walked in with his friend, and his friend just kind of looks at Caesar and looks back at him, and he's like, oh no, the guy I'm walking with is the insane one. I need to run away.
Yeah.
You know, that main atrium, I will say, that did look like the least like cartoony of all the thing. I don't know.
I wonder
the real
if that
question
is because that's the only real place.
Yeah, well, my question is because they threw him in the cell at the very end. Was the cell door triangular? That's the real question here.
I think it was a very similar shape.
Okay.
Well,
I think it was the same set that they threw.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, because it's probably
Budget cuts.
Yeah.
well, that's not. Yeah, I think that it may be that they were trying to like hint at the fake world, but then they didn't change the set. So it's a little bit maybe a nitpick on our end. If I were to do it, I would maybe change that.
Mm-hmm.
But Caligari was super over the top. Like, remember some of those close-ups? Like you were just kind of like, somebody made a remark like or whatever. Like, because they got it's very
Would you
very
say his
close
face
up.
is not pleasant?
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, he had like stuff on his face. It looked like, and it was like scars or something. And he's all disheveled, and his glasses are hanging down. He's got this is just very ominous presence about him, and you're like, this guy just doesn't seem like a fun guy to be around.
Right, and it's all painted by an insane person. Like, so it's like he's like an painted antagonist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's like not like he's like painted to every cliche essentially.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting, where it's like he's almost so bad that it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then every character a lot of the major characters at the end of the movie are revealed to be also in the asylum, with the main ones being Caesar, and then I don't know if the girl had a name, but there was a love triangle between the friends. I think Jane was her name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because there's really only like a couple characters that are named that are on the cast list. So there's Francis, who gets murdered, and then there's Dr. Caligari, there's Caesar, there's Jane, and then there's Alan. Or is Alan the one who gets murdered, and Francis is the unreliable narrator?
I think that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Francis
that
is the
sounds right,
unreliable narrator. Alan gets murdered.
Now,
And
it's an
then Dr.
interesting
Olsen as
thing
well.
to think about, that all of the backstory, there was about a 10-minute, maybe 7-minute backstory of Dr. Caligari and kind of how he came to be and how he met Caesar and stuff like that. That's a lot of time to kind of build up for a fake backstory,
It was
Yeah.
believable. I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
because
did a
they
good
gave
job.
all this stuff about this Caligari who is from Italy, right?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's an old doctor. Kind of, he's working with you got me saying it. Somnambulists, and that's his specialty. And then he eventually adopts the name of his predecessor, the guy who he looks to be like. Once he gets his first patient, imagine devoting your whole life to an object of study, and having your first patient at his age. Like,
Yeah, that would be kind of a sad life.
Yeah, but yeah, this is definitely changing the subject just a tiny bit, almost in the appropriate way, as this film seems to not follow any logical rules with a lot of its set designs. This is a film very much a part of its time. In the 1920s, there were a lot of art movements with surrealism and lots of bendy structures in arts and stuff like that. Kind of the loss of the need for truth. Although I would disagree with the need aspect, the loss of need. The public opinion saw the loss of the need of truth within art. So there's this rise of surrealism, the rise of Dadaism, and futurism.
Dadaism, a huge movement in Germany, right?
Yep. And all of these things started here. I mean, even the rise of liberalism, everything started in Germany. Germany is where, these great influential philosophers were in the 1800s, right? And into the 1900s, we'd seen its effects, and even to today, it's the rise of postmodernism, the rise of surrealism.
I took a class on music in this time period, and music was getting to the point where musicians had thought that everything had been done with music that could be done. I mean, this was post, Beethoven, Mozart, even Tchaikovsky. So people were starting to do it's just like very dissonant, experimental stuff with music, atonality, which is sort of follows along with the philosophical trends of the time. People like Stravinsky and others, Berg, Philip Glass. So there's all these people all the way up to like John Cage. But then of course rock and roll happened, and that transformed how people thought of music.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they based all of this off of the fact that it was all going to end, but really there's a whole new thing that was just going to start. So I don't know. Shows a lot about the human. And I guess cinema in a lot of ways was at its beginning as well, so people didn't know what was going to happen with this either.
Yeah, and it's all a representation of their time. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. I mean, even just the poster of the film is just this piece of art. It's just pretty cool to look at. None of the characters have straight edges. It's all pretty wavy, and there are no boundaries. It seems like there's no structure or truth needed to be there. And this film is stuck in history as well. So if you think about it, this was before World War II. We're dealing with a time we can't even imagine at this point, right? We are very much influenced by the great wars of this world. But this is very shortly after World War I, right? If I have my math correct, and if the internet is also correct. And from what I've read, I was wrong about the end date. It ended in 1918. Yeah. So Janowitz and Mayer, so those were the writers of the script. They were both pacifists of World War I. So obviously, many countries were involved, and many people within their countries who did not want their country to be involved in the war were more pacifist, right? And obviously, in each country that means something different. So I'm not exactly sure what the context is in Germany, but they were. What that means is, at least for World War II, the main thing was that they did not trust their government. They didn't trust their they didn't trust any authorities in there, which goes along with this rise of the loss of truth in society. So this film kind of makes like a story with a twist ending at the end, and it was kind of like, that wasn't exactly what they wanted it to be. Apparently, when they were writing the script, there were some people who kind of got in the way, authorities of theirs, to kind of change the script at the last minute and change it to be an unreliable narrator who kind of had an influence on that. So it's a little bit interesting that their original vision didn't come to fruition, but it also turned out pretty cool as well. Just the style of the film was also influenced by other people who were not writing the script as well. So there were people who kind of forced the writers to change up what they were going to make, which was pretty interesting. So you got World War I, you got surrealism, and all of these. I just think of even the one guy I really like is Salvador Dali. That's one of my favorite old artist, and that when I saw the poster, it reminded me of one of his. Even just the colors, like the big bright orange, reminded me of the one with the elephants with the long legs. So, I mean, there's definitely a name for that. I just can't remember.
Here's an interesting thing. Caligari his physical appearance was influenced by portraits of German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer.
Oh, really?
So that's interesting. Don't know whether any of his work was like represented in this movie at all, but and I also really couldn't recount too much of what Schopenhauer is known for. I just know I've heard the name and probably am familiar with some of his work. Just
here in America, we're
associate
we're
with confidence what his beliefs were.
We're influenced by it, but we don't know it. What we know is if you take the shirt off, and we know the Oppenheimer part.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Because of Barbie, basically. So, yeah, it's a film of its time, which is great. So, what do we think were some of the strengths, and maybe some of the weaknesses of the film?
We've touched on a lot of the strengths, but yeah, set design and plot construction come to mind as like the things that make push the movie to being something that's, especially considering it within its time, to be more than to have more influence over time and to be revered as one of the great movies, just because it's not something that seems like it has any comparison. And well, we talked about like different random things that we thought seemed like it. David mentioned Shutter Island in terms of plot, which I think is a pretty apt comparison. You can see some direct correlation there. And then we also mentioned like Dr. Seuss and like Whoville as like our reference for like anything that looks similar to the set design. I have no idea whether Dr. Seuss ever watched this movie. And I suppose the like Jim Carrey Dr. Seuss Grinch rendition, maybe the set designers were influenced by it, but who knows? It could be so far down the line that you don't know that you can acknowledge that influence or not. But those two things just were what impressed me a lot. Weaknesses, maybe you could say acting, but I don't even know what I'm comparing it to, so it doesn't seem fair.
I thought about this as you were talking. Do we hold this film to a different standard?
I think you have to, but I don't know what standard I'm holding it to, so maybe that's why I'm struggling a little bit more. I think Caligari's excellent. He has great presence, and so I don't know that that's really a weakness at all.
Do you remember my analogy about how your movie journey is like a forest?
Yeah.
Or what I said, the woods or something like that.
You said something. Yeah, you had some analogy about that. Yeah.
I just I'm thinking about that right now. Just kind of like, this is like if we were picked up by a helicopter and placed in a new area, right? Like a tundra.
Didn't you say it was like the rainforest?
Yeah, it's like the rainforest. Like if we were picked up from there and placed into another. And listen to all of our episodes to figure out what I'm talking about. No, I'm just joking. It's like a path, a journey, and I explained it a lot in some episode. I can't remember. Was it 98 or something? Was it Killer Sheep or something?
It might have been Killer Sheep. It was somewhere in the late 90s. I'll tell you that.
Okay. And this is like if we were picked up and put in a completely different biome, right? It could be the clay biome in Minecraft or something else. And we're just we don't have anything to like survey by. We don't have any references. We don't have any standards. I think you have to create your standards for how to rate a film or how to say its strengths and weaknesses by its surroundings.
Yeah, and I've watched 0 other movies.
Exactly.
This is the oldest movie I've ever watched.
The only way to find out what a polar bear is to realize that you're in Antarctica. Am I right? Watch a Coke commercial, you'll learn.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys are not like taking my jokes today.
But I'm tired. Zach.
I think you're sick too.
I'm sick and tired.
It's all in the delivery, Zach. I'm just joking.
Delivery.
I'm smile and nod today.
Yeah,
yep.
Smile and wave, boys. Just smile and wave.
There you go. We laughed at that. Oh,
Thank you.
I laughed at that one.
Thanks.
I also have a very silent laugh.
Like a silent film.
It's not very good for podcasting because it's like I don't know. It's not.
You like forcefully choke on your air.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't make sound. It's not like a good sound effect or a sound bite.
David's laugh is very loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that? See, that's good. I need a David
What
laugh.
What is the loudest laugh you've had on the show?
Oh man, I don't even know. I couldn't tell you.
We need to get
Probably
to.
Caleb.
Yeah,
Probably.
Yeah,
but
probably
Caleb like chokes and then screams, and it's just
Yeah.
What's
we haven't-
describe my laugh? Yeah, I bet you don't know it.
Well, your real laugh or your fake laugh?
My real laugh.
I was gonna say like his kind of laugh.
That's
Well, you just kind of did it there.
Speaking of Minecraft, smells like the witch from Minecraft.
or the
Maybe you also have a little bit of a more silent laugh.
Yeah, maybe
It's sort of a lively. It's lively though.
lively. Oh,
Yeah.
That's a thank you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take that as a complimentary adjective. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, just next time be aware of my laugh.
I will.
It's called being a good friend.
Oh no. Well, it's not that I don't know what it sounds like. It's that I don't know how to describe it.
You just can't tell if I'm fake laughing or real laughing.
No, I can.
Oh, okay.
I mean, to at least a certain degree of certainty.
I think most of my laughs are fake.
I would concur with
I
that.
think that's just how some people are.
I think, well, laughing,
Like
if we want to go on a little
Yeah.
tangent about laughing, laughing is like a defense mechanism in conversation, or it's like a space filler. Some people laugh like nothing is actually funny.
Just like awkwardly.
Yeah, but they kind of laugh.
Let's go down this tangent, and it's going to lead exactly back to the film, okay? So, you're right. People in our culture cannot deal with silence for some reason, right? And you know where I'm going with this.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, like, if anyone is, like, silent, or if we're all in a group, and all of a sudden, like, the conversation ends, then we all take out our phones and just start looking at whatever, searching up the guy who eats all that food and is going to die of a heart attack, maybe.
Badlands
Nick
chunks.
Cotto or
Yeah, the Nick guy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Not Badlands will be here forever.
I can't
There's
see
a-
any,
I would
I can't
love
see
to
any
have
health concerns with Badlands. I don't.
So I would love to have Eric Booker on our podcast.
What?
What film would he pick?
You would pick like Transformers 2.
Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
See,
that was
bring
a
a
real
Mountain
laugh.
Dew. Yeah.
It's Dark of the Moon.
We
I
would
used to
have
be a
him
big
chug on the
Transformers fan.
podcast. We would just listen. It would be an ASMR podcast.
Yeah.
Eric Badlands Booker chugs on the podcast. There's no video of it. It's just him, the sound of him chugging.
Just like-
goop, goop, goop.
Put like a mic right up on his mouth.
Like, Eric, I'm just gonna rest this microphone upon your neck.
They put one in his throat too, so you can hear the swallow.
Thing is, like, he would be like, "All right, sounds good." He's like, so
Yeah. I'm not sure he would be like a great movie podcast guest because he doesn't strike me as someone who's like always very opinionated. He's
No,
more
he'd be
just
like,
like
I thought it was good.
yeah.
That would be the end of his thought. That's my real laugh.
There you go.
You would.
Hey Ben, how about you write an email to him and see
Yeah.
if he wants to come on the
That would
podcast.
be awesome. Anyway, but I'm saying maybe that's the loss of silent films in America. The loss of silent films, maybe in the world even, has led people to always have stimulus, right? TV shows and clips. Now it's clips. It's 6-second clips are controlling our lives. It's getting, and then eventually it'll be milliseconds where we're going to be McDonald's is going to subliminally program us with a McChip in the back of our neck. That's going to make us want to get McDonald's, right?
Just wait till like it's like 0.5 second humor.
Yeah.
It's like how can you get someone to laugh in 0.5 seconds?
But that's existed since 2013 at this point, right? With Vine and stuff. It's just I guess we took a break. For
That's
a while.
more
I'm saying since then.
It's
Yeah.
more there in the cultural zeitgeist.
Prevalent?
Like it's more prevalent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because old ladies can go on Facebook and watch
Facebook
shorts.
Reels. or
Facebook
whatever.
Reels or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok. It's all now short form.
Yeah.
So-
What short form apps do you have on your phone?
None.
None.
Not
do,
even
do,
YouTube.
Do you have a YouTube?
Nope.
Really?
I haven't had YouTube for 4 months.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks. That was the last one to go. But
How are you?
I have Instagram and YouTube.
Okay.
I
I had to
sometimes have
delete both slowly. So.
I sometimes have TikTok over breaks, but then there always gets to be a point where I'm like, all of a sudden realize I'm wasting my time so much.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
so frustrating, and I don't know why I
Yeah.
now I guess I won't have breaks in my life, so maybe there's not an excuse to download it anymore.
This is a
But-
super big tangent, but I feel like Instagram Reels has gotten to the point where it's better than TikTok. I don't know.
I agree with that.
Actually, you're right. I actually think to an extent.
I remember when
I've
it
been
came out,
less
and I was like,
impressed-
man, these are just re-uploaded TikToks. These are trash.
I'm less
but-
impressed by TikTok now than I was because TikTok has now become a news information app.
Yeah.
And you can release like 10-minute videos.
Yeah.
So
It's like
yeah.
YouTube, but worse.
But also sometimes with TikTok, it's like you have to have it long enough to get your algorithm to perfect, to where it's like weird random videos. That's where I always like to be at.
That is true. I mean, I'm very much against TikTok, but at the same time, I think just random nonsense, post-ironic, as you would say,
Yeah, post-ironic,
humor,
yeah.
is hilarious to me for some odd reason. I don't know how. Like, it's just ingrained in our generations. Like, it's in my DNA somehow.
That's just, yeah, it's the natural progression of humor that's our generation has picked up on.
And it's stupid. I'm against it. It's dumb.
It's not dumb, though, because it's intelligent. Because it's post-ironic.
No, that's Rick and
It's
Morty
self-aware.
intelligent. That's where these Rick and Morty fans are saying you don't like it because you don't understand it, and that's pretentious.
That is
Well, yeah, but some
That's the
people don't
Szechuan
understand
sauce
Rick
people.
and Morty.
But you're the guy on the counter saying, "Give me Szechuan sauce." That's you right now.
I know, but I know people have watched Rick and Morty, and they're like, I don't get why it's funny, and I'm like, you don't get it. I mean, I don't know what else to tell them.
No, that's The Office. I can clearly say if you don't get The Office, you don't think it's funny. That's if you don't get situational
I'm not saying
humor.
you have to like Rick and Morty, though.
I'm saying that if somebody doesn't like Rick and Morty, that's fine. If somebody doesn't like The Office, it bothers me a little bit. Anyway, the thing is, if in our culture we cannot deal with the silence. Watching this film, you really have to be patient with a lot of the scenes. You really have to be patient to like hear. Well, we even said like this guy's saying like 5 paragraphs, and they're telling me one word of what he said. It's like, and the word was like, what was the word I really liked? Vargan or something, or Vartin.
Silence.
Vartin. No, Vartin means wait. Because they kept
wait,
saying wait.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And we just had to wait for it, and it's great. I think it's a patient storytelling. It also lets you sit in what the story is. It lets you sit and dwell and kind of meditate and chew on. It sounds like a little bit more spiritual than I wanted it to.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd imagine back in the day, like that was probably quick storytelling because you'd sit down and read a book, right? Like that was or watch a play, and plays could be upwards of 2 hours, you know. So like seeing a one
longer
hour
than that, longer than 2.
I guess it depends.
Much longer, I think.
Yeah, I can't say I've gone to too many plays. And
These silent
maybe
films,
some dumbed down plays or something, but
these silent films may have been played as double features too. I don't know for sure.
Or
but
6
it's
part.
possible.
There are 6 acts in this. Do you think they took a break between? I mean, why would they split it up like that?
That with the part where it says end of Act 1, start of Act 2, and it would go through.
Like it would
the
pause
whole
in
thing.
between each. You think?
Yep.
I
Well,
mean,
I don't know. There'd be a pause, like a.
I think this
intermission.
might have been like an all day thing or an all afternoon thing. Like we worked like really hard to make this film.
Or every night you would come back to the theater to see the next part.
Oh, wow, that's genius.
I mean, now
it's like
at
a
this
TV
point, we're
show
just,
essentially
at this
before
point,
TV
yeah.
shows.
We're just speculating. We have no idea. We're just saying stuff.
That would be a good idea. You know, if we ever regress to the point where we have to be doing films like that, maybe
We'll say it's an
pick that up.
artistic choice for now.
Yeah, we think there's going to be, not to bring this back into the conversation, but like TikTok movies, where it's like,
Not to do
every
it, but
day-
to act,
not the TikTok
not to do
movie.
it, but I'm actually going to do
It's
it.
always got the same sound. They always put the same
Well,
music over it.
one way you could do it is it's like,
Was the Carmen?
I've thought about this. I'm not sure how it would work, but I always thought that it would be cool to do a horror movie that was just like the whole. So you know how searching was like all on the computer screen. Well, this would be
All
like
on TikTok.
all on the
Oh my
TikTok.
gosh. That's
And it
a
would be-
horrible idea.
It would be like
A
the
vertical
story,
screen?
The story is
Do you
told
think-
through the scrolling.
Do you think in the
and
future we
never-
have movie theaters with aspect ratios that
No,
are vertical portrait mode?
Oh my goodness.
Do you think because we get so addicted to our phones?
I'm surprised they haven't opened like live TikTok viewings
Oh my
in
gosh.
theaters. Anyway,
Yeah,
a whole theater.
I hope I
just for
die
that.
before that. that's. Yeah,
And
that's
like you buy a
wild
ticket to
idea.
the theater like for 4 hours, and it's like you just sit back and you order food, and it's just someone scrolling through TikTok.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but what about
just
your
somebody's-
algorithm?
No, but their algorithm is insane.
It's
That's
just
why
like
you pay for it.
they're like this. I have the best algorithm.
Yeah.
That appeals to. They make like genres, and it's like this weird word that they or like or a group of words that they made up that's like intrigues you, and you're like, I want to see what this is like. I think this is my.
Take like a personality test for like algorithms or something, and then go to that viewing.
It's gonna
or
be
something.
all algorithms.
It's an INFJ viewing.
There's
Yeah, that's
gonna
what
be
I was like. Yeah.
There's gonna be an algorithm. You're gonna go to a restaurant, and it's like you fill out this survey, and they bring you like the perfect meal that you want, based on your algorithm of wants.
I'm not sure I like that.
Well, you'll never be dissatisfied.
Sure.
You'll always be happy, and you
have
better
hope,
be.
you have high hopes for this.
No, well, I'm just saying that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah,
You will be very entertained, and your
It's gonna be
information will be very stolen.
It's going to be Huxleyan. That's all I'm saying.
As long as I have that Neuralink so I can download medical school.
Right.
But they'll still charge $200,000.
Then your job will be obsolete.
Yeah.
Because they
goodness.
everyone will know how to be a doctor. Nobody will get sick.
Yeah, but only if you have $200,000 to do it.
Well, yeah, but they don't need medical school anymore. Oh, you're right. They're going to charge money.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, these schools aren't going to let people get away with it. Come on. If you want to save lives, you got to pay.
Yes, that is true. You better pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to help the world, you're going to have to pay for it. That's what basically their motto is. So, sitting and being in this film, what kind of is the... We kind of talked about how it's a representation of pacifism of World War I. But what is the major theme or message? If there's one or more than one. Or is there not? Or is it a story?
Off the bat, I would say I find it hard to think of a theme off the top of my head. I think if you think about something hard enough, you can always assign a theme to something.
So then do it.
All right, well, you have to give me a moment. That's what we had to do in poetry back in high school. I remember I took a poetry class, and it was just like you have to just basically like bullcrap your way into finding a meaning into a poem. And it's like, or this guy just like found a sequence of words that rhymed, and there's like,
meaning exists. This is the thing that I need to say. Meaning exists outside of us. It's better to extract meaning than to impose meaning. That's what I say. Now, when you extract meaning, you'll find that it's actually much more meaningful than imposing. Because there can be meaning in imposing meaning. Because a lot of times we do have some meaning that we can impose. But a lot of times extracting and figuring out what the actual message is and then applying that is the best that you can do.
But here's what I'll say. Knowing certain modern directors, sometimes the meaning that you extract is that you're supposed to impose the meaning.
And unfortunately, we're stuck in that loop right now. You're right.
Because I'm thinking of our dear friend David Lynch, and I don't think he's imposing or he's leaving a lot of meaning there to extract.
He gives us a nice balance beam to go off of.
Yeah, you're right.
He gives us a backbone, but we have to put the bones together.
Right. Yeah, there's a little bit of structure there.
Yeah.
But you got to figure it out.
There's always something. There's a diving.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, there probably is a meaning that should be extracted from this movie, or could be extracted from this movie. You immediately go to like, what is the motive? Like, why is Francis caught in this delusion that he's Dr. Caligari, and it ends by him saying, "Well, he thinks I'm Dr. Caligari. Now I know how to fix it." And then the movie ends, and you're like, "What? What does that mean? Why does he know how to fix it now? And how did you not figure that out earlier?" So like, what is the source of his delusion, and what are we supposed to like learn from the fact that? Because we are told a lie for like the entire movie, and then it's like the rug is pulled from out under us.
Yeah, well, outside of his delusion, it's interesting that it seemed like he was like he had carried a normal conversation with that one random older guy, right? Like and he had fooled the older guy until he let him march to the insane asylum, right? So I mean, it seems like it's like a very isolated thing where he's just like almost obsessive with this whole thing. So but it kind of makes you wonder, how did he get to the point where he had met the director so that he could create this false delusion? Because what was his underlying issue that even got him to the insane asylum? Because I don't think that's really displayed.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not sure. There might be something there. I think so. This is imposing meaning onto the film, but a guy named Siegfried Crocier, something. He's like a cinematologist. Let's just call him that.
All right.
And he made this piece called From Caligari to Hitler. And it's arguing kind of that Dr. Caligari is this authoritarian autocrat who's going to take over Germany, who's ready to be taken over. In the same way that Hitler was taking over. Hitler took over with Nazism, and Dr. Caligari took over with Caesar. Both carrying daggers.
So it's like a Hitler prediction?
Maybe. That's imposing.
Now, it would have been predicting that there was somebody who would fill the power vacuum like Hitler did, because I don't believe
World War I agree.
That it's long enough after World War I ended for people to really know who Hitler was or that he was.
Yeah.
No, I think... I don't know.
Now, Hitler fought in World War I, right?
He fought in World War I, and I think he grew an influence over the 1920s until he eventually took over.
Yeah,
but I don't know whether by 1920 he was
in the U.S.
an influential figure in Germany in the way that he was later on.
Yeah. Another thing I learned is that so Caligari actually is a phrase in theater, which might explain some of the theatrical productions that we kind of saw within the acting. But it means everything in the set. So like bring the Caligari, everything in the set, you know. But in film, it means everything in the frame. It's like the props, costumes, you know, people and everything. And that is such an interesting thing because every single shot in this film had multiple layers, right? It had like the backdrop, it had a front piece, and it had like a middle part. And the people would go from all 3 layers within each of the scenes. So in every single scene, it was like a jungle of items. It was like lots of different things going on and lots of different cool, surreal architecture and set pieces going on with things that just were distortions of our everyday life. And that, I think, is partially why the word Caligari was chosen for this. So the meaning is, I think, what the modern movies today are saying, Ben. I think a lot of the meaning is that there is no meaning.
Really? Well, the authors did intend for there to be like a political meaning to the movie, though.
Yeah,
But I
political
think-
meaning. But if you have a twist like that at the end, that just makes the movie almost pointless.
Like nullifies the.
Because you can't take into like
You can't trust anything.
Yeah, you can't trust any
That's
of
what I'm saying.
the themes that are in that.
You can't trust authorities.
Right.
You can't trust
Well,
anything.
because then Caligari is like you don't even know the context for who he is actually and what the asylum is actually. You see all that accusations you lay against him are like saying that he represents this or that.
All the backstory that was built
representing
up.
something in a delusion.
Yeah.
So then, how could you make?
Well, that's what
extract
Germany
any-
was. Germany was in a delusion in World War One, apparently, according to the pacifists. And once they wake up and realize what reality is, it's too late, and they're in an insane asylum. So I think a lot of it has to deal with like
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
there is no we can't trust anything. It's almost like Immanuel Kant took a hold of this film.
I like
50
that
years later.
interpretation. Do you think you could go further with it and say that like painting an antagonist has anything to do with that? Because that was the large part of the story, right? Painting this antagonist. Do you think that has anything to do with?
Yeah, I think building up this antagonist. The only thing is, it's hard to imagine because like this, it's almost like a prophecy that came true because he was fulfilled in Hitler, the actual backstory.
Yeah.
So maybe they just imagine, like you said, Ben, this power vacuum that was there, or it's just this make-believe guy that they imagined could have been a political or authoritarian power that was in the government at the moment. You know, it could have been someone else
Now,
or the government as a whole.
is it possible that the guy who is experiencing the delusion is correct? Like, and that Caligari is an authoritarian, even though he's telling it in a delusional way.
And he's the
I thought
only
about
one
that.
that can see it, right? Because
So I thought about that. It could have been that Dr. Caligari planned this whole thing to frame it on him, right? But that's too logical, I think, for this film.
yeah. Also, I think it has a few like plot holes there because like some of the same people that like went and got Caligari and it's like, oh wow, he's the bad guy, throw him in the cell, right? It were the same people that grabbed him. It was like some of the same doctors and stuff that grabbed
Yeah.
the protagonist.
It was the same guy that looked extremely German, the guy with the white hair.
Yeah, unless if they were in on it. I mean, like you could say that, but
Well,
I mean,
I think they were the same guys because he's just he didn't distort. I mean, you're right. That is a consistency between the two. The delusional story we were told and the truth, apparently, is that those doctors are still doctors, right?
Yeah, and a lot of it seemed like it's fair to say that a lot of the main characters in this story are recycled, right? Because a lot of the people that you saw at the end were in the asylum, and it was a lot busier than the asylum. Like Atrium was a lot more busy than it was in his delusion. There were like almost no one in there. Right?
Or maybe you have all of these forces during World War I kind of arguing and trying to do good, but at the end, none of them are in the reality that they expected.
Or is it somewhat that like there's this dream that they discover the authoritarian and they're able to like nullify him, but then they wake up and they wake up oppressed, like they wake up their so the reality is we're actually under the
only thing is,
authoritarian
I
figure.
think this movie, it could be true, like maybe there's no fault in them, but I think the movie attributes fault to Francis, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know that would I'd have to think more about which I don't have time to, but
It seemed like Francis was the idiot the whole time. It seemed like they're painting someone in a bad light.
Yeah.
Right?
Or it's like kind of almost an unsatisfying ending, though. You can say that with most unreliable narratives, right? Because you can say that it's almost unsatisfying because what we've seen, what we know to be true, is all of a sudden broken apart, and you are like, okay, well, what is true, right? That's the whole point. But with that said, are you reliable? From what you've seen, is everything reliable, or is I don't
True,
know?
and we just questioned that. We thought, what if Caligari was planning the whole thing? Are we reliable in our interpretation of it? So, thanks a lot, surrealism.
Okay, so Stephen Brockman writes, the destabilized contrast between insanity and sanity, and hence the destabilization of the very notion of sanity itself, is another major theme of the movie. And so I was right. The abstractions and stylized elements serve to show the one experienced by a madman. And then they portray it like as a nightmare, and then frame the story of the real world. So, yeah, these discussions are discussions that all film critics have about this movie, I think.
So we're among the greats here.
We've already found ourselves among the greats. Now, let's just say you were trying to write a paper about this movie for a college class. I don't know why. Can't be that I might know somebody who just had to watch this for a college class they're in. What advice would you give them?
To this imaginary fake person, I would probably write about the influences of existentialism and surrealism on the film industry, but through the lens of this film specifically, obviously, and then talk about how that kind of shows that there's an unreliable narrator, and that we don't know what reality is in the film or outside of the film, and reality is always questioned and motives are questioned, and I don't know, just kind of write how truth becomes this big blob, this big mess because of these outer influences onto this movie, and this movie is just an expression of these larger movements happening in society.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a precursor to like the rebellion that we got in America in like the 60s and stuff.
Which rebellion?
Just like, like Woodstock and all that stuff.
I see.
The whole idea of hippieism is like kind of just like questioning like what you quote unquote know to be true.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Germany is the start of any philosophical thought since the 1800s. Mm-hmm. So the last 200 years, any movement or idea that we have here is not original. It started in Germany. That's where the great philosophers were. That's where Kant started and kind of ruined the world, in my opinion.
Huh.
So you're right. It's a logical, the American reaction to these things.
Was Freud Austrian or German?
I don't know.
Because Freud also is extremely Austrian.
Yeah.
Also extremely influential on the direction that our world's gone in, and people have drawn some. Now, people always draw Freud into everything, so it's hard to tell how serious this is. But there's some like father figure with Caligari like tension there.
Yeah.
That you could say is maybe a little bit Freudian, but could be a reach.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think a lot of Freud's influences are interpersonal and intrapersonal. So like dealing with what is humanity in relation to itself and each other.
Yep.
Whereas Kant is does truth exist and can we know it? What is the mind and the body, are they separate or are they one? Can we trust the mind? Is the mind above the body, or does it not matter?
Yeah, and in some senses, what Freud proposes is like an addition to some of what Kant, from what you're saying,
and
seems like
you're right.
It would be, because some of the directions that you might go in if you decided that you didn't believe truth was real or knowable.
Well, Freud and Kant would
make
fundamentally disagree about pretty much everything, because Freud's taking it from a scientific standpoint. Kant's saying you can't trust any reason.
Yeah, and I guess I should say when I talk about Freud, I don't necessarily mean what Freud said, but more
he had a big influence.
His influence and how it's been taken.
Oh, sure.
Because I don't think there's many things that people actually agree with Freud about. I think it's more of the essence of who we have decided that we are based on how Freud thought about things.
You're right, and I'm not disagreeing. but a lot of our sociology and psychology, although it doesn't agree with Freud, they use Freud's ideas and kind of cement them in maybe a different way and focus it on something of his.
Right.
But yeah, so very, very influential. Lots of influential people. You know, it just goes to show, like, if you just have strong ideas, you can have a great effect on the world, especially if they change the current status quo. It's like Dead Poets Society, you know?
Yeah, but it's also interesting because your actual effect on the world doesn't happen until like 200, 300 years after you die.
Juice WRLD. We just talked about that.
Which makes you wonder how worth it is.
Well, no, none of it's worth it. And it's not this. Our lives are not about legacy. That's
exactly.
Stupid.
I know. That's
the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Which makes me wonder why they wasted their time, all their time writing about stuff.
No, I think they can't help it. I think in their head it's like, I have to solve this problem or I'm gonna die.
Yeah. My brother and I always made the joke that poets aren't good until they die.
That's true. I think they're best when they're dead. A poet in the ground.
Zach kills them personally.
Well, I can't say that.
All right.
In case medical schools
on that.
Are listening.
Yeah.
That would be a very interesting thing to get denied for.
Yeah.
All
Zach,
right.
we heard it on your podcast that you kill poets.
Which you did include.
We support the poet community. We're gonna have to send out a post.
Yeah, we're sorry. We did. And you did include the movie vault in your application, right?
I did. I actually in my 6 medical school interviews, every single one asked me about it.
Really?
I should have added it to my resume.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't.
Well, that's different though, because a medical resume. It's not on my medical resume.
No, you're right. It's because it's not really
That's more
relevant.
of a talking point.
It's not a job.
Yeah.
But just because one of the people who interviewed me asked me kind of an off-the-wall question about something on my resume, so if I hadn't included a podcast on there, it might have been. Yeah. But that's just because I like talking. So it wouldn't have helped me get the job or not get the job or anything like that.
But you got the job.
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
All right, in closing, Caligari.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it basically means what's within the frame, what's within the stage. So, I guess we're here. We're within the vault. So, Caligari to the vault.
What'd you think, David?
I think overall.
Yeah, overall.
Do an Eric Booker impression of the Badlands Chugs impression of what he would say.
Oh boy. Yeah, it was a good movie.
And I'll say, 102 episodes in, we're finally cracked open the silent film vault section of the vault.
Yeah, it's not a genre.
Yeah, I mean, not really, but like people categorize stuff that way because they can. And it's kind of like race versus ethnicity, really. Okay.
That's my real laugh.
But I really haven't watched too. I won't say that I've never seen a silent film, but I can't recall one. I guess M is sort of like a mix between the two. So
M was influenced by this a lot.
Yeah, and Fritz Lang was in consideration to be directing this movie, and he was directing another movie, so he didn't.
Right, before we close, though, we have to say what movies we watched real quick.
Oh, right, yeah. But and just in closing, I'm just glad that we watched this movie, and I think it did thoroughly impress me. So
with its impressionism.
Yeah. So yeah,
Man, I'm on a roll today.
We'll do some movie highlights. Zach, do you want to go first?
I like how you said that. You should. We're gonna do our movie highlights.
Yeah, you want me to keep doing it that way?
You should say that next time. Yeah, I watched Videodrome. You've seen Videodrome, Ben.
Oh, it's so good.
Awesome thing. This guy develops a hole in his stomach. I'll just leave it at that. And that's all I kind of want to say about the film. No, it's this. I actually really don't want to describe the film. It's pretty. I didn't realize how inappropriate it would be. It doesn't sound inappropriate when you hear it, but some of it was inappropriate. But a lot of it was cool action and a lot of great body horror. This main guy who runs this video company who finds this like sacred video, who's has this mystical ability to make someone get a brain tumor in their head and cause them to act out or do stupid things and then eventually die. And yeah, he watches it and is tricked by this corporation, and basically this big corporation's forcing him to work for them through this video broadcast frequency that they've shown him. It's so strange. I can't even remember all the details. Like, I had no idea what each scene would be. So it was great. I think it ended well too. It ended pretty open-ended ambiguity, as you love, Ben. And I watched The Fly. Oh, I loved The Fly. I love The Fly. I love Jeff Goldblum. I did not know Jeff Goldblum was in The Fly. So
Yeah, The Fly's been one that's on my bucket list for a while.
Yeah.
I need to get to it.
it was excellent. Everybody was great in that. And then I watched this. I think that might have been it. Do I have
Yeah.
another one on there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have 2 as well. So I rewatched The Big Lebowski again with my teammates. We showed it to more people. Yeah, The Big Lebowski is it's a movie about bowling. It's about crime. It's about a lot of things. It's about friends and camaraderie, but and it's about living your life like nothing matters, which I can't really endorse, but it's kind of funny in the context of the film. But what I'll say is, the first time you watch Big Lebowski, make sure that you watch it again a second time and a third time, because the details that you'll understand, and it will just get more funny the more times you watch it. You'll enjoy the humor more the second or third time you watch it than you did the first time. And it's just hilarious to quote.
I haven't seen it.
It's so good.
That's one of I can't call myself there are a few movies, actually there are a lot of movies that I
Yeah, I
cannot
know,
call
there's
myself a cinephile until I see them.
There's a lot of movies for me too. I'm
Yeah.
not quite there.
Yeah.
And then I watched this animated movie, French animated movie called Fantastic Planet. Kind of watched it today because I was like, because I wanted to have more movies for this segment, and it was only an hour and 10 minutes long.
It is kind of a little
And
incentive to.
It was on my
Yeah.
list, so I was like, I'll just knock it out today because I have like a lighter homework load this semester, so I have a little bit more free time. So yeah, it's a movie about these about humans, but they're called Oms instead of humans, and they're on a planet with dregs who are like more advanced living creatures, and they sort of treat humans like animals.
So it's about race and ethnicity.
Yeah, and it's about them, and it's about genocide, and it's about
Oh my gosh.
they try to kill all the Oms, and it's a cool movie. But the plot, I was like, it's cool. It's maybe not the most original plot I've ever seen. Like you probably could point out other movies that have plots similar, but I just think that the animation style and like the creativity and like the planets and the different things and the way things work. Yeah, so I really liked it. I really enjoyed. It was cool. It was a little bit violent in some parts, but yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Planet.
Gave it 4 stars. So
That's the title.
check it out.
Oh yeah. Very clever. So,
Thanks. Have you seen any movies lately, David?
I watched the Sonic movie too. It was a movie.
It was a movie.
It was a movie.
We watched the first one together in theaters, and the third one's coming out this year.
I remember
Oh,
you
is
guys.
it?
I remember you guys invited me, and I said no.
It was like I was watching it for free. I definitely wanted to pay to.
You guys said, "Hey Zach, do you want to see a Sonic movie?" And I said no.
Hey,
I didn't watch it in
It
theaters.
wasn't the worst theater experience ever.
Honestly, I
What was
liked
the
a lot of the
worst theater
Sonic
experience?
games, but I don't know about the movies. This is just like, I don't know.
One of the worst theater experiences I had was actually Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah,
I
I've
went and
heard
slept
about
in
that.
my car.
Really,
I think I've had worse ones though.
I think
I've walked out of a
Ben
lot
is
of
legit.
movies.
Ben and me are like legitimately the only people I've met in real life that enjoy that movie.
I know a lot of people that love it.
Really?
I do.
Do I know any of those people?
I don't know. I think there are just a few movies that they hit different for me, and like it's sometimes the message is not worth the build up to me. I think I struggle with that a lot. So I haven't seen Killers of Flower Moon yet. Once I watch that, hopefully it's the message is worth the build up.
Were you a fan of No
Country for Old
Old
Men.
Men? Yeah, that's.
I was not, so I wasn't a big fan of that.
They're not really that similar movies, but they're kind of like more interesting, drawn out movies. And
Yeah, and No
I
Country
Ben,
for
you
Old
probably
Men-
like that movie.
I love it.
Yeah, so that I think that's just.
Now, we'll point out the Academy agrees with me on No Country for Old Men because it won Best Picture in 2007.
Yeah, well, the Academy's real smart.
I like to applaud the Academy when their opinions.
Yeah, you
agree
and,
with
when
mine.
they line up.
You
Yeah.
and the Academy in Shape of Water and
Yeah.
Moonlight. Yeah,
Well, Parasite was good.
fair. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Yeah. Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Well, great. Well, maybe I'll see the third one with you guys without seeing the first two.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait till we go over this most anticipated list.
I think I
like-
could
I like
summarize.
Jim
I think I
Carrey.
could summarize the plot for you.
I guess Sonic beats
Sonic
Eggman.
exists in the real world now
Wait, what?
instead of the other world,
Is that that's the
and
premise?
he throws rings and they make him teleport in places and dimensions.
Hmm.
Knuckles punches, Tails flies.
So it's like the video game.
Yeah, it's like the video game.
Mm.
And Knuckles is stupid, I guess.
I heard they're doing a Zelda movie. I'm
Oh,
very,
really?
very excited.
I've
for
never
that.
played any Zelda games.
I hope they don't tailor it
Are
down
you
to
excited
little
about
kids.
the Borderlands movie? I don't know if you ever played Borderlands.
I've
I've never
not.
played much video
There
games.
are not
Neither
a lot
have
of
I.
video games that I've played.
So
The only
I guess
game
I
I
don't know why I
played
brought
is
that
Super
up.
Mario Galaxy 2 in Minecraft.
That is, Zach, that's your favorite game,
Oh, that's
isn't it?
my favorite game.
There's
And-
been
and you
movies
like the
made of both of
soundtrack.
those, I want to point out.
Oh, is
What?
it?
The Minecraft movie and the Super Mario Bro movie.
Oh, yeah, they're coming
Super
out
Mario
with them.
Bros. Was made for the generation that did not grow up on it.
yeah.
Who's playing Steve in the Minecraft movie? I just remember last.
Oh, it hasn't come out yet. Was it Keanu Reeves?
No,
Is playing Steve in the...
it was like The Rock or something stupid.
No.
I was like, I don't know. I laughed.
I keep forgetting it hasn't come out
That's
yet.
the stupidest thing ever.
I don't think if it's The Rock, I'm not gonna watch it. The Rock is like the most like corporate actor of all time.
Jason Momoa?
Oh, okay, no, that's
Jack Black.
who's Jack Black. Could
Okay.
be?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Alex.
What?
Jack Black is like in every
He's a creeper.
Every video
animated
game
movies. Yeah. Jason Momoa's in it. Kate McKinnon. All right, I don't care about this. All right, let's close the vault.
Yeah. All right, David, you can close it for us.
All right.